That's a little bit more for beginners because I would go do these. There's some trails that I would go do, and it's like you're braking, and you're like, I'm gonna literally fly over my handlebars if I touch this. Even though you're going 5 miles an hour, you touch it, and you just start leaning like this because you're so steep.
Hey, what's going on?
What up, dude?
How are you?
I'm good. How goes you?
I'm all right. We just moved, so I'm trying to figure out. I was trying to put this together real quick. How to build a new desk.
Got you. Where are you moving from?
San Diego we moved to Nashville.
Dude, I'm literally in Nashville right now. I'm flying back to LA in a couple hours.
Oh, really? Right
Yeah,
on.
we should have done it in person.
I know. I wish we would have known that. That would have been so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you at in Nashville?
Just south of Franklin.
Okay, sweet. We're in, what area is this? I don't remember. We're right by downtown.
Berry Hill.
Berry Hill?
Oh, Berry Hill. Okay.
Berry Hill.
Cool. Yeah, we're down in the burbs.
Oh, right on. Right on. We're enjoying the rain today.
Is it raining outside?
It wasn't
supposed to.
It was this morning, and it's been raining here. I legitimately went outside and stood outside in a towel in the rain because I hadn't been in the rain in so long because of Los Angeles.
Oh, sure.
So I'm sure the neighbors of whoever house we're in was like, what the fuck is that man doing?
And it's like 80 outside, too, which makes it's perfect.
Exactly.
It's not like you're freezing outside. Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, you guys don't get it. In Los Angeles, you don't get this very often, especially this year. I think it rained twice this year.
I know, man. Are you originally from LA?
No, I'm from Montana originally.
Okay. Is there weather in Montana?
Oh yeah, yeah. You get all 4 seasons, and you get plenty. Where I'm also right underneath the mountains there, so you get plenty. All the storms develop right over the top of us, so you get a mixed bag.
Okay, snowing and everything.
Oh yeah. I was raised in a ski bum town, so I would say it was a mix of like either super rich people or super poor skiers. So that was like the mix of my town.
Okay,
I was the latter.
Okay, what was it like growing up there? I mean, were you skiing all the time?
Yeah, it was my huge pastime. It was funny because when I moved to Los Angeles and everyone had like people played basketball, I'd go shoot hoops, and I'm terrible at basketball. I'd be like, hey, let's go play tennis. I'd get my ass kicked in tennis, or hey, let's play video games. I'd get my ass kicked in video games. And then one day it was like, let's go skiing. And I was like, oh, that was what I did outside of music when I was a kid. Was I skied and snowboarded constantly. And now we got a whole crew. It's been fun finding that crew of people in Los Angeles that enjoy doing winter sports. But growing up, it was like the only thing I wanted for whether it was like birthday, Easter, Christmas, I was like, just give me a ski pass. That's all I want. One gift a year is all I need.
Cool. Well, how often were you able to ski? Like, because I grew up in San Diego, so there's like Bear Mountain and various other places you can go to, and it was a very like sliver of a season you could have there. Like, what about in Montana? Was it a bit longer? Or?
Yeah, it's sometimes a little bit shorter, but it's generally November to March. Sometimes April, but generally November to March. And the thing is like I live 10 minutes from the top of the mountain, so you would just.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was my Saturday, Sunday in high school when I got out early. When I started getting out earlier, it was just like go straight to the mountain and enjoy the last couple runs of the day. And also my parents were fervent believers that they don't remember anything from their tests, but they remembered every day they cut class to go skiing. So every time there was a big jump, it was like, we're taking you out of class, you're going skiing. I was like, all right.
That's awesome. That's cool.
They had a super passion for the outdoors, and they would, even if I was grounded and there was something that came up that was outside, they're like, you can go do those things, but you can't like go to the movies or go to a dance or go do that, but you can go backpacking.
That's awesome. And with that mountain or where you lived, was it like mountain biking and all that going on during the off seasons?
Yeah. In the summer, they got mountain biking up there, and there's a whole trail system up in Whitefish now too. That's a little bit more for beginners because I would go do these. There's some trails that I would go do, and it's like you're braking, and you're like, I'm gonna literally fly over my handlebars if I touch this. Even though you're going 5 miles an hour, you touch it, and you just start leaning like this because you're so steep.
Well, if you flip forward, you're done.
Oh yeah, dude, and you'll get all the scrapes and bruises. There was one time where I was biking along a trail, and I remember leaning this way, and it was like the weirdest feeling. It legitimately felt like someone pushed me back. It was like a spiritual experience. But I remember looking down at that thing, and I was like, if I would have gone like an inch more over, I would have been breaking a lot of things.
Oh man, oh, wow. Well, how did you get into music? I mean, obviously outdoors are big.
Yeah, outdoor is a huge thing to me. When I was wearing my North Face shirt, the
There
not sponsored. Uh, I got into it when I was a kid. My mom, I'm pretty sure, just got us into it because she heard that it was good for the development of like kids' brains.
you go.
So she got us doing it from super young, and my sisters started when they were like 5. So then started when they were like 6. So I started when I was like 3 because I would just go do everything they did. And there's like even videos of me just literally like standing in the room with them doing their piano recitals and going over and messing with the piano. It was just always something that excited me. It was always something that attracted me. Doing my own thing with music's always excited me. When I was a little kid taking piano lessons, my first teacher very much encouraged me to write my own things, and that's what I would do for my lesson. Is like I would learn to read music, but then she's like, "All right, write it. If you're going to write it out." So it's a piece of music, and I would write these little things out, and I got into it at a very young age.
Wow. So you're like pretty classically trained, especially if you can write out notes and.
Yeah. I think I was better sight reading at like 15 than I am now.
But still, to have that skill set,
Oh, yeah.
so many musicians, they couldn't read music off a sheet, but
Yeah,
they could play
it
or
was.
whatever, you know.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of classical training. I was doing classical stuff all the way up until I was like 18 or 19 years old with singing. Because I was in Montana, I didn't know. I was like, I want to do music, and I'm supposed to go to college. Being an American in the 2000s,
Right.
so went to college and was doing all classical studies because I just had no idea. And then after being there for a year and a half, I figured out there's like this whole other route you can do in music. Like I was writing with the band every day, and over studying some things online, I was like, oh, I can actually go do this. And that's when I like made the transfer, left that school, went to a songwriting school, and started pursuing my own journey.
Okay. And were you writing? Obviously, you were always writing, you said, but were you in bands or anything in high school, middle school?
I was, yeah. I think my first band was called What Rhymes with Oranges, but we couldn't think of a band name. I was always doing it. There was in high school, there was a group that I'd go play with. We didn't have a name. We just go play at local bars. And since I could sing very well, they would trade me for doing guitar lessons to come sing with them. So, and they would let me play guitar too. They would just turn me way down.
So they would teach you how to play guitar if you came and sang with their band?
Yeah. It was
Wow.
It was just the natural trade-off because they would say, come sing these things, and I'd say, okay, well, how do you play this? How do you play that? What's that thing that you're doing on that song? I want to know how to play that. And they would sit there and just teach me basic chords on guitars. Yeah.
Were you just doing cover songs at the bars, or were you
Yeah, it
singing
was
them your
cover
originals?
songs that we made up. Like we would all take turns soloing, and they were very good, and I was very bad. But we would just learn progressions that we thought were fun, loop them. I would freestyle, sing over the top of them. Sometimes we'd freestyle rap over things. Beatboxing was a big thing that we'd do. But it was just kind of just like a mixed bag of whatever really entertained us is what we would do for like an hour and a half at like a local restaurant that my buddy's parents owned.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
just
Go ahead.
just a source of entertainment for us. I don't know if people even enjoyed what we were doing, but we were having a blast.
You guys had fun.
Yeah.
You said you went to school not originally for music?
No, I did. I went to school for classical because, like, when I graduated high school, I had no idea really what I was doing, and the next natural step was going to college. So I just went and auditioned for the music program and ended up getting full ride and all that for classical. But
Wow.
after doing it for the first year that I was doing it, I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to do music because I was like doing music in college the best that I could, being from where I was from, and I really wasn't feeling it. And then the transfer happened when a buddy came over to my house one day and started drumming on. Literally, we were fixing a hole in the wall that got punched in my wall from a party that happened the night before, and he started drumming on the boxes, and I started playing guitar, and it was like he's like, dude, I play drums. Let's like start a band. And it was like, all right, and that was when the transfer started happening.
Okay, and that's when you transferred into the songwriting school. Was shortly after that?
Shortly after that, yeah, about like 6 or 7 months later.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
When you write music, I'm just curious, is it hard to kind of take your mindset out of that like theory and, the classically trained?
Mm-hmm.
Because, people that don't know any of that, they can just kind of hammer around and hope something sounds okay. But knowing what notes should go with which notes, is that kind of hard to deviate away from?
Yeah, there was a time in school when I was in that I started learning so much jazz that I started thinking about it too much, and it started becoming mechanical to me. And there's like kind of just two different switches I run on. When I'm picking up a guitar, I'm not thinking what chord am I playing. I just pick it up and I play forms, play naturally where my hand goes, and just kind of move around and find things. I think where the theory, if you think about it while you're writing, definitely gets in the way, because writing has to become from an inspired, unconscious state. And I think if you're thinking 1-4-5 every time you pick up the guitar, you lose inspiration very quick. But you find a place, at least I found a place where I could forget about it, and it's almost a switch that I have to turn on. And where it comes in handy is if I'm stuck, or if I'm like, I've done this pattern a bunch of times, or this sounds too familiar. Okay, what's something I could do to freshen this up? And then I'll start thinking of turning that switch back on and thinking of different places that I can take chords. And that's the only time that I really use it. That's why I said I haven't read music since I left college, because it's all been writing, and you're rarely reading music ever. It's all more chord patterns than anything.
Are you writing out music still?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I think about it. Like if I'm stuck on a melody, I'll think about the training that I've had as far as like what are like the most common notes, the most comfortable notes, like do, re, mi, or the 1, 2, 3 of like a chord. They're like the simplest melodies you can write. So if I feel like something I'm doing is getting too complicated, sometimes I'll go back and be like, all right, what's the simplest melody I can write? And just use those 3 notes, or use the 5th and 4th, and push around those things and think about how I can simplify something.
But I mean, if you're playing with, like, I'm sure if you went to a studio with studio musicians, it's easier for you to have the language to communicate with these people, right? I mean, play blah, 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 or yeah.
Yeah. It's whether it's a G major or 1 major, the conversation makes it easier to be able for everyone to get on the same page. If you're playing with a key player, bass player, and a guitar player, a lot of things in LA you do it by ear. It just says just listen, and most people just listen and figure it out. And they do all have some musical training. But if you want to switch something up or switch up an arrangement, it's the best way to be able to have dialogue with fellow musicians for sure. But as far as when you're writing music, it rarely comes into play. But performing, absolutely.
And so once you were in this songwriting school, you graduated. Is that when you decided to move to Los Angeles? Where does LA come into the picture?
Yeah, I was in Boston. I was at Berkeley, and I was there for 3 years. And then
Did you start at so you didn't start at Berkeley? Sorry.
No, I started university. I started University of Montana, and I was in University of Montana for 1.5 years. There was a good chunk where I wasn't doing school. I did school for a year there, and then I transferred to Berkeley because of their songwriting program. And
you had already gotten into the first school on a full ride scholarship.
Full ride for classical singing.
For classical singing, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
you were obviously in the chorus and choir prior to that to get
absolutely. Absolutely. Choir was a huge influence in my life.
Okay. And then so you get into school, and then you transfer to Berkeley, and what does that look like? Do they just know that you're already in school for classical voice?
No, they don't care. You have to re-audition for everything.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So you re-audition for everything. And I was going for something else. I wasn't going for classical studies. I was going for songwriting. So the audition process is a lot more catered towards what you're doing. You're still singing. I still sing like a jazz standard, and I think I just sang a jazz standard in a song I wrote for my audition. But I went there for 3 years, and I still had some classes left that I needed to do. But I started realizing on that last year of school that I was like, I want to be doing music professionally, and I know I don't need a degree to do that. I know that there is not a music industry here in Boston, and the industry is in Los Angeles or Nashville or New York. And I actually did try some New York for a little bit, but being a mountain boy, I could not stay in the city, and I like having a car. But I realized that for what I wanted to do, I needed to get out. So I left a few credits shy of finishing, and just started diving into LA and diving into finding new people and connections, and grew from there.
Was it a hard decision to make to leave a full ride scholarship to go to a different school?
No,
obviously that didn't transfer over, I would imagine.
No. Luckily, I won. It would have been a lot harder, but I won a jingle contest with Folgers, like right in between the two.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was like a meant to be thing that ended up helping me pay for school. So I used that, and then I ended up getting a full ride for the last year I was at Berkeley. But leaving was a pretty easy decision for sure. Both times, leaving Montana, it was hard because the people that I loved that were around me. But leaving there was easy, and then leaving Boston was it just seemed like the obvious thing to do, and I was just ready.
That's interesting that you tell me about this Folgers commercial. That's so funny.
Yeah, there's a reason why I've changed my name. No, but
Oh, really? You were going by something else beforehand.
no, I was going by Ethan Thompson before. It was just my name.
Okay.
But then when I did my Alt Bloom project, I wanted to kind of be a new page in a chapter.
Got it.
But no, the Folgers thing, it was just it was like a competition they put out online. It was the first year they did it. They did it for a few years afterwards, but it was basically just like a competition to like use their tagline, "The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup." Make like a minute-long video of a new jingle that you wrote with that tagline at the end. So we did that whole thing. It's an incredibly embarrassing video. I'm sure you can find it you can find it very easily.
Okay.
And yeah, I ended up winning it. And it was really the first time, because being from a small town and not having too much mentorship on how to be an artist. I had some tips on the industry, but on how to be an artist, it was the first time where I really felt like, oh, you're like capable of doing this. Because I'd never been to New York, and I ended up flying to New York. I'd never been to LA, and they flew us out to LA to film a commercial after we won it. And it was the first time where I really felt like, oh, I can do this if I really put myself to it.
Yeah, a little validation, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sure.
So from there, you move to LA, and then you still go by you're going by your original name, and then when do you change to Alt Bloom?
Yeah. The change was just when I started that project. So it was like I still say, hey, I'm Ethan, and this is my project, Alt Bloom. I don't go by Alt. But some people call me that, and the more power to them, or AB. But yeah, the switch happened just because I was ready to start a new chapter. And when I came to it, I was like, I don't really want to have the pressures of everything I've done before on this. I just want to do what I want to do, because I'm very capable of singing different genres, and there's a lot of different places online where I've been in different genres, and you can find all those things. And I didn't want those really leaking into what I was doing on my new page. I want to be like, this is a new expression. This is a new this. I know that I can do that. I know I can do this. I know people want me to do that. I know people want me to do this, but I really want the opportunity to just do my own thing without those pressures.
Okay. What year was this when you started Alt Bloom?
Basically when the pandemic started. I released the first thing at the end of which was a bummer. I started at the end of 2019, and then we started releasing I released like the first track of the EP in January, and then we dropped the end of the EP in April or May of 2020. Yeah, and I've just been have been doing singles every basically 2 months since then. And yeah, that's basically been like the trajectory of releases and the length of the project so far.
Wow. Okay. So you start the project end of 2019, and then the whole thing comes out in May, which is only a couple months into the pandemic. Was that something that you were kind of trying to hold on to and not release, or at that point were you like, okay, this is probably not going to end anytime soon?
I think that I was just so excited about the music that I wasn't taking into consideration what was going on. I just was like, I really want to get this stuff out. And the other thought was everyone's locked up right now. Let's give them some music to listen to. And before everything locked down, I literally started the first 2 dates of a tour, and then everything locked down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was a pretty big
where were you?
I was in California. I was in California, and we were just going around and doing. We were starting a tour that was going to every high school and performing for this thing called High School Nation.
High School Nation. Okay, I was going to ask, was it part of that?
Yeah. Jimmy's great. I love all those brothers. They're a really good crew. But we had just literally started the second day of that, and it rained out, and then the third day rained out, and then the fourth day, everything got locked down.
You're on High School Nation tour. Yeah. Rains out day 3. Who was on that tour with you? I know Plain White Tees are a big part of that.
They had done it previously. They'd done it previously. Honestly, I don't remember the names of the other 2 acts who were there. I remember their faces and everything. But I'm the person where someone goes, "Hey, what are you listening to?" And I go, "Hold on a second, because I have to go look at what I've been listening to." My memory is very short lived.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, that must have been obviously a huge letdown. You're in the middle of this High School Nation tour, and then everything shuts down, and then what do? You go home and try to I know you're doing a pretty cool thing with the Tribe Tuesday, and how
yeah
when did that start?
I just basically went home to Montana. I was like, do I want to be locked down in LA, or do I want to be locked down in Montana? And I took the opportunity to go home and be with my family, because I'd only spend like a month out of the year basically with them, because I do 2 weeks in the winter and 2 weeks in the summer home. So I just went home, and I thought it was going to be for 2 weeks, and then it ended up being like 6 months, 6 or 7 months, and it was just sitting in my childhood room, writing a ton of music and really sorting through like what I want to do next. it was a very interesting process because I was removed from all of my influences and my team and my encouragement that I have face to face all the time, and I was really, really removed from that. We all were, everyone was. So it was an interesting time in creating because there really was no feedback even from an audience of what I was working on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really caught in this world of creating, being like, is this any good? Not nonstop for that whole period. And I ended up doing a lot of traveling during it too, just going to national parks, all up and down the West Coast.
Okay, that's cool. And well, that must have been, you got pretty quickly, you got some success. I mean, to get on the High School Nation thing within what, months of starting the project, like how did that kind of come about?
It came about just because they were fans of the project, and I think that they had someone drop out. They knew who I was, and they called me. It was like because it was like the same. I think it was like within 2 days of getting the call about it, I was out there. I was out there on the first thing, meeting everybody.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So did you make connections pretty quickly when you moved to LA?
There was a couple people that I knew, and I basically just there was a A&R that I knew, and then it was just basically following any lead that I had, anyone that I would hit up who would be willing to write with me. I remember my dad at one point came out to visit, and someone in his church ended up being a writer who'd actually had some success, and like they linked to that, and he like linked me to that person who I only did a couple songs with, and one of them. That his whole team loved, and then that like linked me to other people, and it was like you just kind of slowly through. It was either me sitting and writing in my house by myself for hours, or it was me going and doing a session and figuring it out, and then just doing the best I could in every situation I was in, and really just climbing like that. And it was brick by brick, and it was 2.5 years before. Well, it was actually only about like 7 months before I got my first cut, and then it was like 2.5 years before like I got my first deal, and it was just grinding.
You have this momentum going. You're doing the High School Nation tour, then everything shuts down, and like, how do you keep going? Like, you have this fan base now, and they're pretty new to the project, and how do you keep their attention?
That's been a challenge always, because I'm someone who doesn't enjoy social media and I feel like it's a trap that we've all been wrapped into, and now it's like this thing that we all can't get away from on a daily basis. And I still try to get away from as much as I can, and feeling like you're feeding into keeping people on their phones is like it's a very interesting conundrum that I'm still trying to figure out to this day of going, how can we be artists without being cogs in a social media machine? And it's a reflection that, still trying to figure it out, because I've always been someone who touring's where I connect the most, touring's where I meet my fans, and touring's where I really care the most and what I put my most effort into. So it's been an interesting thing. The beautiful thing that did happen is I've met my core online lovers through doing the Tribe Tuesdays, which is just, it started off with like 4 people. And it's grown from there. And it's just like the same core people that hang out every week, come through. We now have, we share positive stories when we're there. I share new music. I share old music. I play songs that they've heard or haven't heard, whether that's off my computer or on guitar. And we just sit there and talk. And it's like a nice little place that everyone meets up. We're all familiar with each other. And and it makes for a fun way to have a middle of the week kind of cheer up and connect with everyone, especially with like the way things have been going now, where things are sliding more down into, people are getting more pulled apart from each other on a daily basis, whether that's through news and picking a side, or whether that's through actual lockdown mandates, or whether that's through the fact that social media has was already there, and now it's raised itself so much further. It's gotten gasoline dumped on it over the last year and a half here. That I think that having that moment where we can just have open conversation, and it's not all about me, it's all about the community. It has been definitely a blessing every week.
How did it start? Was it just something that you're like, yeah, I'm going to go on here, and like, how do you even begin with something like that?
It just started because we wanted to have a weekly catch up with everyone, because I wasn't able to go out on the road. It was like I was just about to go out and connect with a lot of people. And then from there, everything just felt like it was on pause. So it started off as basically like something to do during lockdown, and then it's just continued on as something that I could do to check in with everyone on a weekly basis and just kind of play them new things. And that's kind of how it started. It didn't start with any idea of let's make it a magnificent event every week. It's just like, let's have a check-in. Let's have a check-in with everyone every week. And it's just kind of, it's just grown from there.
And you keep doing it. You're still doing it?
Yeah, I still do it. I didn't do it this week because I'm in writing sessions in Nashville and squeezing the juice out every moment here, but I will be back online next week.
Right on. And you're in Nashville now writing what, new music for yourself or collaborating with other people?
Collaborating and really just trying to figure out, there's a buddy here that I used to write with. Every 6 months we would do like a week or two together, and we obviously haven't throughout the lockdown. So it was my first time to really get back over here and connect. So I just came over here for 4 days just to spend after I get off this, I'm literally going to go and write till we get on the plane. Just to get over and connect really with my buddy again, who I haven't seen in years. And I've written the first cut that I ever got, we got together. So we're excited to be writing together again.
Oh, awesome. Well, tell me about that. What was the first cut you got?
It was with a rock band called Shinedown, who I did not know who they were at the time. And it's so wild. They are
really? Yeah, they are massive.
Yeah, I had no idea. And actually, we all got tattoos when it charted.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was the first tattoo we all got. We made a promise the day that we wrote the song, because we really felt strong about the song. It was called State of My Head. And before it ever got sent out or anything, we said, if this song makes it on the radio, we're all going to get tattoos. And sure enough, it was something like 6 months later, it was on the radio, and it did well. And Carlo, the guy who has Disney, happened to be in town when it was charting on the radio, happened to have planned a writing trip. So we all went and got tattoos the last night he was in town. That's cool. It was a fun ride. But yeah, it was a song called State of My Head with this band Shinedown. Okay. And do you still write for other people as well as yourself, obviously? Yeah, I mean, I think I just write in general. Even when I was writing State of My Head, the idea wasn't let's pitch this. The idea was just write a good song. And there's sometimes when that process is done that I'm like, this song is for surely for me. And there's sometimes when that process is done that I go, this song is for certainly not for me. But the goal is always kind of just follow whatever comes into the room, write it up, and then I decide in hindsight what's the best thing to do with it. Okay, so you're in the moment. You don't know what it's going to do. You don't know if it's for yourself or for somebody else. Yeah. In the moment, it's just write the song and don't think about it. Because there's sometimes where I feel like I'm writing this for me, things can get in the way of it. Or if I'm writing it for someone else, things can get in the way of it. I'm like, I just want to write a good song. And if the song is good and I feel it, then I'll decide what I want to do with it. Okay. And you're on Hollywood Records now. Yeah. And tell me about that relationship and when did that start? That started, I was in a band for 3 years that got picked up by them called Ocean Park Standoff. I did that for 3 years. And then throughout the whole process, I always wanted to do my own thing. And I was very open about it from day one to day two to day three to day four to 3 years later. And finally left to do my own project. And when I left, they called me up and said, hey, what do you want to do? Are you interested in doing anything? And I said, well, I just want to work on good music with good people who hopefully like the outdoors. That's all I want to do. And they said, we'll support you. So I re-signed with them to this project. And I've been working with them. I've been working with them ever since. Oh, wow. So I didn't realize you were in a band prior to this. So Ocean Park Standoff was the band that you were in. So between all the other stuff that you've done, when did you have time to spend 3 years in a band? That would have been late. That would have been early 2019. And then like 2016 to 2019, I was in that band. Was that when you moved to LA? No, because we weren't even trying to be a band. We were just a writing group. We were just writing, and we had written a handful of songs together. It got sent in somehow through like a very weird chain of events. It got into the hands of Hollywood Records, and they said, yo, we want to like sign this as a project. And we got called about it. And it was kind of like sure, why not? Let's try it and enjoy it and learn a lot while we're doing it. And and that's how the whole process started. That started when you were at Berkeley? No. That started in LA. That started in LA. Yeah, I've been in LA for about 7 years now, minus the last. Okay. I was confused on timing. I figured that you had moved fairly recently. Okay, so you moved to LA, the project was going, and then this project started right kind of around when COVID happened. Got you. Yeah. And have you're working on new music now? Always, bro. Okay. What's next with you? Obviously you're writing in Nashville. Yeah, I have a song coming out on the 24th called High School that I absolutely adore. And then I have another song coming out in November called Beautiful. And then right now, and I have all those songs done. I have the material and I have the videos for them done. I'm doing final edits on the Beautiful video when I get back to Los Angeles. But So I'm just writing for 2022 and figuring out what the next vision is. It's funny because I remember seeing in Back to the Future. I remember seeing a scene where Marty McFly is playing the guitar and doing the solo at the end, and the dude calls him and he goes, "Hey, this is your brother." I can't remember whose name it was because I'm terrible with it. But this is your brother. I can't remember what he said, but he says, "Yo, listen to this. I think this is the sound you've been looking for." And puts the phone on him shredding on the guitar. And that's like how I feel like I am right now. I'm really looking for what the next chapter of my music's going to be, and the next sound for me. It's not necessarily like it's a total change, but just really feeling what's going to give me, trying to find those things that inspire me again. Coming out to Nashville has been great for that. Going home was great for that, and really figuring out what the next, evolution of my music is going to be.
Awesome. And high school, you said is the next song coming out.
Yeah, on the 24th.
Yeah, tell me about this song real quick.
It's funny because I know the specific instant I was writing about that song. Am I allowed to cuss?
You say whatever you want.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, the hook line of the song goes, "I fucked my life up in high school." And the moment that I was writing about is I remember when I was graduating high school, I was sitting next to my mom, and we were at a scholarship ceremony, and everyone was getting called up for a scholarship, and I'd gotten like a $200 scholarship or something at the time. This is like before I'd even auditioned for school. And I was sitting there, and everyone was going up and getting the scholarship, and my mom leaned over one point and she said, "It's okay," and tapped my leg and said, "At least you had fun." And that's kind of what that song is about. It's about really celebrating that I had no idea other than to just have fun in high school, and it was really just that freedom that you feel, and the fact that I don't regret it. I think that having that time in high school to enjoy yourself and just crash around this odd thing that we call life is a beautiful time. So it's really celebrating that.
That is awesome. And then these are just coming out as standalone singles.
Coming out as standalone singles. I might do a double release at the end of the year just because it's the end of the year. And I release songs on basically any song that my label hasn't liked this year. I just put out on SoundCloud with their blessing. So like, I feel like, cause I did Astronaut Complex, and I feel like I literally released an Astronaut Complex 2 on SoundCloud throughout the pandemic. Because I started doing it where I was like, I'm gonna release a song every Friday, and I ended up doing it for like 10 weeks or something. Because at first I did a bunch of acoustics, and then I started releasing songs that were unreleased that I was like, these feel timely to me, and I love them right now, and I want to put them out right now, and I don't want to be waiting for whenever people deem it's okay to do an album or whatnot. So I feel like I literally released the whole second half of my Astronaut Complex EP on SoundCloud.
On SoundCloud only. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I might be taking some of those songs and start double releasing them.
Oh, cool.
With the project coming up.
So what you have on Spotify is different than what's on SoundCloud?
There's just more on SoundCloud. There's more on SoundCloud. So like my top 3 songs, I think are all the style that I love. I called it lo-fi pop was the genre that I'd become obsessed with. Mac Miller at the end of last year, became obsessed with a lot of lo-fi. And during 2019, end of 2019 and early 2020. So it's really all influenced by that sound. And to me, it all sounded like it was the same project as the EP. So yeah, I just released I wouldn't even call them B-sides because I wrote a lot of them after the EP had come out, but they were all in that same spirit, same mentality, a lot of those songs were, the EP was walking someone through the stages of love, from before you even know it to when it's after. And I feel like all those songs were still parts of that story.
I love that. And thank you so much, man, for doing this and bearing with my technical issues here. I don't know what the hell's going on with my microphone.
No sweat, dude. No sweat. I enjoyed it. And I hope you're enjoying your new spot in Nashville.
I appreciate it. I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I think the main thing that I like to say is study what you love. There is certainly going to be a pressure to do X and do Z and do what other people think that you should do. I have that pressure on me 24/7. And I think the thing that helps me is by studying the things that ring true to me, study the things that I love, and putting forth my best foot from that mentality, and knowing that what someone else's opinion has studied as success, or what their ear has learned to love over the years through whatever various means of their life that they went through, that doesn't mean that what you were doing is better or worse. It just means that it's coming from your true, honest place. So I think that, studying the things that you love, like when I was studying Mac Miller and was able to then let that influence and inform what I was doing, it was the best way for me to feel connected to what I was doing artistically, outside of the scope of people saying, do this or don't do this.